Hello and welcome to the Sideboard. My name is Ruben Bressler, and I am here with Kassis, who has a little something spicy for us today. Most people know about Sneak and Show, but you have something a little slightly different. You've made a little bit of changes to attack the metagame. Tell us about what you've got here today.
Well, my first change today was Overmastered, and I was running into a lot of problems playing against Rug because they run a lot of quick threats, and then there's a lot of counter magic. So this card is just allowing me to set up a turn 3 or 4 Overmaster, forcing them to counter it. I get to pay for it, I get 2 for 1, and then I tend to go off on the next turn. They usually can't fight me on 2 different turns. So the first turn gives me the card advantage, the second time I fight them with Force of Wills and back at them. So it's just made the difference.
That's fantastic, and of course what you're putting into play are Griselbrands and Emrakul's, as is the traditional way. But you've also got another creature in the deck. You have a Singleton Simian Spirit Guide, which I typically don't see. Tell me a little bit about that decision.
So a lot of people prepare for this deck, especially Maverick, with what you have on board, and they use known information. So often you'll tap out for a sneak attack or have 1 mana open and then put an Emrakul into play. They'll decide to go with the Knight play for Kassis and bounce, and then unbeknownst to them, you have a pitch target to activate sneak attack again, put Emrakul back in, and get in that turn. Other times it just acts as a 5th Lotus Petal, which speeds you up and lets you go off sooner, which you need to do against some of the decks. I just played against Dredge, for instance, and it was very important that I had all the mana to go off on turn 3, or he would have just outraced me.
Now, among other things, you're known as being a very good player. But one of the other things that you're known for is being a purveyor of rarities, let's say, and very into your pimp cards, I should say. And this deck is no different. You've got lots of foils, lots of foreign cards. But you also got a couple miscuts. You want to talk a little bit about your miscuts here?
Sure. I've started collecting miscuts in the past year, and as soon as I saw miscut dual lands, like this one right here, I decided that it was just something I wanted to own. They looked really neat. They reminded me of the times when I started playing the game. For instance, this one has the Suvin Shapeshifter on the top of it. I have a Savannah with a Nightmare on the top of it. They look really cool, and it lets me play cards that I can't really play.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, that's a ton of fun. Yeah, and so you also have basic lands, which aren't nearly as rare, and people at home can actually realistically start collecting, as opposed to dual lands aren't a realistic thing that you want to start collecting.
Yeah, they're very expensive, but the basic lands are semi-expensive, but they're where guru prices are. So
okay.
They're affordable without being completely unaffordable.
Without being completely unaffordable. Now, you have a very different sideboard than most Sneak and Show lists that I've ever seen. Tell me a little bit about your sideboard.
So most Sneak and Show lists run 4 Leyline of the Voids, and I just didn't like them. The hand discard decks didn't do much. I set up things with Brainstorm, where you just show until and sneak attack and wait to draw something. There are so many plays you can line up, and those decks you're not weak against. The decks you are weak against are Rug, and then some Bug with lots and lots of counters after Hate and from the sideboard, and Vendilion Clips. So I went with a lot of things that tear apart those decks, like Defense Grid. People used to run that in High Tide, and it was very, very good against those decks. They tend to be sitting on Blue Blasts or Red Blasts and just can't cast anything. They try to Spell Pierce it, but you leave mana open to pay for it. Or you just turn 1 it off of an Ancient Tomb, and then they're just dead. Nothing in their hand can do anything, and you're free to go off. It's great against decks that can't also go off, so that's why I went with Defense Grid. Relic is very necessary because Dredge can get ahead of you, and it's also great to board in with Intuition in my deck, because if people try to Surgical Extraction my target, I just use the top ability activated on myself to remove a card. Submerge is really good if you're trying on the Show and Tell plan, because that makes it so you don't have to have Sneak Attack. You can put whatever you want in, and when they put Knight of the Reliquary in, you just put it back on top of the deck, and then they can't go for Kassis in time. Kassis is just over Wasteland because it kills other Kassis, but it also has beneficial purposes. If you're playing against Maverick, I've bounced 1 million Thalias and Teagues, and it just sends it back to their hand and lets you do whatever they want.
Also does really well in the mirror and against Reanimator, I'm sure.
Yes. So. And then there's also cases where you'll put Sneak Attack into play, put Griselbrand into play, and they'll have Kassis, but wait to use it after you draw 7 for Emrakul. You'll draw Kassis, and you can play it, and their Kassis dies before they can activate it, which is sometimes huge. Progenitus is the same thing. It's for Maverick matchups. A lot of people are on this plan that Gilded Drake is good. It's not very, because if I go with this half of the plan, it's just a dead card in their hand.
The Sneak Attack half.
Yes. But if I can't go with this, I board in 2 Progenituses, because that gives me a Show and Tell plan as well, which stops them cold. The one of Ancient Grudge I really like, and I'm surprised nobody else has run this. With Intuition, you can go for Ancient Grudge, Lotus Petal, and you're guaranteed an Ancient Grudge. So you only need 1 sideboard slot, and if somebody has a Pithing Needle on Sneak Attack or an Ensnaring Bridge out of the board, you have a perfect answer for it. The Pithing Needle is just a second answer like Kassis. It's really hard to board in multiple Kassises with the mana base because you don't want to cut too much. You tend to have to cut these, Ancient Tombs and City of Traders, for Kassis, but you don't want to slow down your deck. And then the wipe away is for people that bring in something like Blazing Archon. A lot of Reanimator decks do it. So all you do there is go for Gristlebrand, draw your whole deck, and then draw the wipe away and send it back.
Excellent. Well, this looks like a ton of fun. People haven't been playing Sneak and Show as much recently, but you're currently undefeated with it. And it seems like it's got a decent spot in the metagame. Gristlebrand decks have sort of fallen back from favor. Even though there was a while there where Reanimator and Sneak and Show and even Dredge running Gristlebrand were really on top of the metagame, and that's sort of fallen back now. But you've sort of found the answer to that, especially with that 1-mana source, or what is that? It's a 1-mana sorcery speed from Torment, little piece of technology there that I'm sure people will start adopting.
It's been great. Generally, these slots have been filled in by preordains that basically cycle or give you one extra view. This gives you one less view, but has an amazing side purpose that just scares any counter player into having to counter.
Yeah, Overmaster is definitely, to me, the most exciting part of this deck.
It is,
well,
for me too.
Ely, thank you so much for joining me in the sideboard. I'm sure the folks at home will be very excited to see this deck. Thank you for watching.